Good morning, Chad. Friends came out over 30 years ago, and despite its undeniable success and popularity, people still can't decide if this is a good show or not. Ask anyone, and it's either their favorite show ever or it's the worst, most overrated piece of media on the planet. Regardless of how you feel about it, when that intro comes on, something about it just makes you wanna. Now, I personally couldn't comment on the matter because I had only ever seen like 2 episodes of the show, but my first wife falls into the category of people that adore Friends. So I figured it's time to understand what the fuss is all about. We're only about halfway through season 3, but there are 10 seasons of this show. So I wanted to get down my first impressions and if I think the show is good so far. I think the best place to start is just by talking about the individual friends themselves. Joey's my personal favorite character, and he's a pretty typical lovable idiot.
If the Homo sapiens were in fact Homo sapiens, is that why they're extinct?
And as a certified doofus myself, I really like this archetype. He's got this childlike naivety to him that kind of makes him the best of all of the friends. I would say he's a pretty great guy overall, except he treats women horribly. Joey's kind of the player of the group, so he's always on the prowl, looking for a new woman to seduce, but he never ever treats them well. He's cheated on multiple girlfriends.
I don't cheat, right? That's not me. I'm not Joey.
Okay.
And he throws one girl's prosthetic leg into a fire, which is objectively funny. Okay, maybe it's not that funny, but the worst part about it?
What did you do after you threw her leg on the fire?
I ran.
But they never really show any of this, and he's generally just a nice guy to his friends. He might be the villain in some lady's heart, but in this story, he's a good guy. And speaking of women that Joey is wronged, Monica plays the role of the stereotypical mom character. Most of the show takes place in her apartment, and she's always making meals for the group and hosting parties. And in my opinion, she's the mom/nurturing character done correctly. The only thing she's ever been really stingy about is the group keeping her apartment clean, but that's fair. She never does anything crazy or overbearing like going through people's things like other mom characters might, like Jess or Schmidt from New Girl. No! Chandler's probably my second favorite character, and he's the closest thing the show has to the straight man archetype, which is ironic because the recurring joke is that Chandler is gay.
I could get a Brian. Believe you me. I'm really not.
I don't understand the joke, but this is the 90s and things were really different back then. Maybe you just had to look for more subtle hints that somebody's gay, whereas nowadays it's really obvious that a guy is gay because he'll kiss boys or listen to Andrew Tate. Now, I say Chandler's the closest thing to a straight man because he's always the one reacting to the group doing weird things.
Hey, how come we never have jam at our place?
Because the kids need new shoes.
His main bit is that he's just always got some snarky, sarcastic thing to say, and everybody gets sick of it.
So if your parents hadn't got divorced, you'd be able to answer a question like a normal person?
And honestly, as a viewer, I'd probably get sick of it too if he wasn't constantly getting in trouble for it. It puts a strain on a lot of his relationships, especially with girls. That being said, his relationship with Monica and Joey are really sweet, especially with Monica. I wonder if there could be something there. On first glance, I think Phoebe kind of reads as another lovable idiot, but I don't think that fully describes her character. I think she's really similar to Dwight from The Office. Characters that don't seem smart in the moment until you realize they're just marching to the beat of their own drum.
And just as you have planted your seed in the ground, I am going to plant my seed in you.
Which is fair considering she had a really weird upbringing with her dad leaving and her mom committing suicide. Shoot, I can't blame her for not being tethered to societal norms like gravity.
Oh, okay, don't get me started on gravity.
And I think despite her idiosyncrasies, Phoebe is easily the most emotionally intelligent out of all of the friends. And sure, she's got a weird way of showing it, but she's definitely one of the most caring of the group.
Be on the lookout for anything that you could fall into or that can fall on you.
Rachel is fine. She's got 2 interests, men and fashion. I'm genuinely trying to think of other character traits, and that's kind of it. But it makes sense for her character because she enters the show as a spoiled brat that doesn't know anything about the world.
What if I want to be a purse, you know, or a hat?
At least in season 3, they've been putting a lot more emphasis on her desire to build her career, so now she has something to do other than date men. My biggest criticism of her is her pursuit of Ross is incredibly annoying. She only likes him because he likes her, and she tries to ruin his relationship with a girl so she can be with him. My wife said, Rachel's not being a girl's girl right now. Other than that, she's a fine character. I'm mostly indifferent towards her. Honestly, other than Rachel, who I think brings the least to the table, I really like all the other friends I've talked about so far. I cannot say the same about Ross. Ross might actually be my second least favorite character in any TV show. No, scratch that. In all of media. All he ever does is complain and whine about things that aren't going his way. And I know it's not lost on me that I'm complaining about the guy that complains, but I can't stand this guy.
Guy says, hello, I want to kill myself.
It's all just, wah, my wife divorced me because she was a lesbian. Wah, Rachel's dating a guy, but I have feelings for her.
I can't believe you two had sex in her dream.
Dating Rachel now? Oh, but she has a guy friend. Oh, did I mention my wife left me for a woman? And it's not just the whining. If it was just the whining, it'd be annoying enough. But it's the fact that he's complaining about the dumbest things. Like whining that Rachel has a boyfriend when he never makes a move. Or like being mad at Rachel for being friends with her coworker Mark, even though he's still friends with Phoebe, who he almost hooked up with. And the divorce thing? Yeah, no, okay, I feel for him on that one. That one's tough. And sometimes he's just a jerk to his friends. Like the time when Rachel gets mad at him for falling asleep at a fashion seminar that he begged to go to so her guy friend Mark didn't go. And when she mentions that she went to his work thing and didn't fall asleep, he says, well, that's different. My job is more important than yours.
100 million people went to see a movie about what I do. I wonder how many people would go see a movie called Jurassic Parka.
Girlfriend, by the way. Obsessed with this girl since high school, by the way. I just need you to understand, I hate this guy. Most of the time, it doesn't even seem like he wants to be there. And truthfully, I don't want him there either. As far as this story goes, it's okay. It's mostly them just living life together. The show's episodic, so there's no like big overarching Fire Lord that they need to stop, but there are a few storylines that are mainstays throughout the show. Things like Phoebe's search for her dad or trying to find a cure for Chandler's sarcasm. It's just the basic sitcom formula that works.
Has anybody seen my left boob?
By far my least favorite plotline so far, one that I know is a mainstay through the show, is Ross and Rachel's relationship. Ross and Rachel have a very will they won't they relationship, and watching it makes me wonder, will they jump off a bridge and won't they ever stop talking? Ross is obsessed with Rachel, yet he simply refuses to make a move, but he complains when another guy has the gall to actually ask her out. After a season and a half of this dumb back and forth, they finally get together and they're not even a good couple. Ross is constantly getting mad at Rachel, and she makes everything worse by responding in anger or just shutting down. Like the time Rachel has Ross have dinner with her dad, even though her dad is insanely rude to him, so Ross naturally responds by joining her dad in dumpstering Rachel for being dumb. And the most annoying thing Ross does is he's insanely jealous and clingy of Rachel, even though she tells him he has nothing to worry about. This ends up causing a fight that leads to one of the most iconic lines in the show.
We were on a break!
I hope it's pretty obvious by now that I hate Ross. And before watching the show, I thought I'd seen enough of their fight to come to the conclusion that Ross definitely cheated on Rachel. But I don't think it's that simple. While I do think Ross makes some of the worst, most boneheaded, idiotic decisions possible, he definitely doesn't cheat on Rachel. Let me explain. Ross and Rachel's 1-year anniversary is coming up, so they have a nice dinner planned. Rachel ends up getting swamped at work, so she tells Ross they're gonna need to reschedule. Ross decides, despite her telling him no, he's gonna show up to her work anyway. Rachel angrily shoos Ross off, and when she finally gets off of work to confront him, he actually says, no, you're in the wrong. He's unwilling to apologize, so Rachel says, maybe we should take a break from us, and Ross storms out. He ends up meeting Joey and Chandler at a bar where they convince him that he needs to call Rachel to try and make up. But when he does, he hears Mark in the background, so he angrily hangs up the phone, gets drunk, and has sex with a girl he knows from a copy store. Rachel then goes to him the next morning to try to make up, but when she hears from Gunther that Ross slept with another woman, she dumps him, saying she didn't expect him to hurt her that way. Ross was worried about Mark. He should have been worried about the threat closer to home. I think this story can sound like Ross cheated on Rachel, except when she goes to make up with him, she says that they were broken up. She even says it to Monica the day before.
No, we kind of broke up instead.
So if Rachel is under the impression that they broke up, she can't be mad at him for cheating. But don't worry, she can be mad at him for other things. Like how she very explicitly told him she won't have time for distractions and he shows up to her work anyway. And despite him ignoring her very obviously communicated boundary, he thinks he's in the right because he's barely seen her all week and feels like he doesn't have a girlfriend. Mind you, this is a 29-year-old man that has been obsessed with this girl since high school and waited years to ask her out, and yet he can't handle 1 week where she's busy at her second job ever That's really important to her. Also, Ross blabbers about how this anniversary is really important, and then he ruins his ex-wife's anniversary by complaining about what happened to him. And while he didn't cheat, it's never a good idea to get drunk and have sex with somebody right after breaking up. But then he has the audacity to try to Jedi mind trick her and say, oh, it's your fault because you wanted to break up. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we call a red flag. And the thing that makes the least amount of sense to me is when Ross is pleading for Rachel to take him back, he tells her, I'm gonna stay so we can work this out. And if he had just done this the day before and had worked things out before sleeping with a rando, none of this would be happening. And honestly, that's the ultimate synopsis of their relationship. If they would just talk and communicate like adults, they would be a much better couple.
Oh, I wish I could, but I don't want to.
You may be wondering why I just spent so much time harping on 2 specific characters when there are 4 other characters in the main cast. And that's because I hate Ross so much, bro. I just had to get this hatred out of my body. But more than that, how you feel about the show is ultimately going to come down to how you feel about the main characters. The group doesn't really get in a weird, crazy, zany situations like Dwight pretending there's a fire in the office. The weirdest things that happen in Friends are like Chandler dates a girl with a prosthetic leg, or Monica's dating a 50-year-old guy. The show relies heavily on its main cast, so if you don't like them, you won't like the show. And since I like when these guys are on the screen, and I don't like when these ones are on the screen, I think the show's not bad. Sometimes it's even good. It's definitely not the best show I've ever seen, but it's also not as overrated or bad as people say it is. There are some people that'll tell you the show is unwatchable because of the laugh track, and it is jarring at first, but honestly, after a while, you don't really notice it. Sometimes when I do notice it, I say, wow, I didn't know that was a joke until they laughed, so now I think it's funny, and that joke is funny every single time. One night after watching Friends for like 2 or 3 hours, I was starting to get bored, so I turned to my first wife and I said, how do you not get sick of this show? And her answer was, I don't know, it's just kind of cozy. And I think that's a really good way to describe Friends. It's not going to blow your mind or make you rethink everything you ever knew. It's just good for a few chuckles, and it might even make you laugh. All right, see ya!